Okay, homies, what's up everybody? The Khaiza is back once again, and we're gonna do like a little real talk discussion, right? We have done these for some time now, and I think we did what was it? Oh, the Evo leaderboard discussions. Yeah, that's right, for 2024. All the tallying numbers and stuff like that. But we haven't done a real talk and discussion, right? And we're gonna be talking about the Khaiza's thoughts on Guilty Gear Strive. I got the shirt and everything. I got myself all prepped up. Yeah, so I think it's when did Guilty Gear come out? I think it was 1 year after the first waves of the COVID pandemic. And yeah, it's it was the first fighting game to usher in waves of rollback netcode, right? We have this study of fighting game history where they started to appear in the 90s with all of the Capcom classics, as well as the competing SNKs, and soon after the rival companies started to make their own fighting games with newer graphical models and newer engines with 3D instead of 2D Capcom and SNKs were. Right, so there was Tekken, and there was Soul Calibur and Virtua Fighter, and then fighting games sort of stopped around the 2000s. They were still going on. There were still fighting games being out with SNK, with the King of Fighters series. They still continuously make their games, but they're relatively small, and we wouldn't see, and also Mortal Kombat, we wouldn't see fighting games come back until the late 2000s, right, with the avant-garde of Street Fighter 4. Hence we call after Street Fighter 4's release kind of a renaissance, right? We are returning back to the glory ages of fighting games, right? And yeah, in that age, fighting games were definitely fucking back, right? With Street Fighter 4, the return of the Cap Gods, Capcom pumping out a lot of well, not multi, we wouldn't call them multi-million-dollar hits, but just games coming out of the wazoo that, you know, were bad in terms of sales, but they were treasured for their time. Street Fighter 4, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, Street Fighter Cross Tekken. So many games that are coming out, as well as other games that prompted their return to their classic series. Mortal Kombat 9, or, you know, well, if you want to count MK vs. DC, but Mortal Kombat 9, KOF 13, Guilty Gear Xrd, right? Especially, right? Then it would stop, then it would stop until it would continue until 2018 or 2019. They're just pumping out fighting games after fighting games, and the only problem with the fighting game renaissance is that, you know, not a lot of people could travel to a lot of places, a lot of venues like Evo or SNK World Championship, for example. They have to sit down and play online, and the fighting games were good, but the online was ass, right? And fighting games would technically have a second renaissance after Guilty Gear Strive, with newer games like Street Fighter 6 and PlayStation, and especially the first forebearer into, you know, the rollback era of fighting games, Guilty Gear Strive. And Guilty Gear Strive, again, came out of 2021. It is when a lot of fighting games were you know, trying to maintain, you know, their relevance into the fighting game sphere. at that time we didn't have Street Fighter 6, we didn't have Tekken 8, we didn't have Mortal Kombat 1, we didn't have a lot of like, you know, modern day goodies like we would have like today. And so Guilty Gear was like, you know, it played significantly better than Xrd. It's got rollback netcode, it's got great character presentation outside of like, you know, the lobbies, but it was an overall like, you know, restart to the series from Xrd and just brought in a lot of players. Like this is like the like fighting game at the time to not just like cater to like old school like diehard Guilty Gear fans, but also new people to the group. Guilty Gear Strive brought in a lot of people into like the crowd of the FGC as well as Guilty Gear, right? And yeah, Guilty Gear was like popping off. It would be in so many tournaments as like their main like final game, like closeout game ever since. Like damn man, I remember like what, Evo 2021? Or was it Evo 2021? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, maybe. Or was it like Evo 2022? Yeah, we would like stayed up all night. We stayed up all night watching. Well, I had to like close out, right? Because that was like at the time when Evo adjusted their time clocks to cater to everybody from top 8 back in the day to top 6s to you know, cater to everybody who didn't make it to LA, California, you know? I remember like, you know, watching Evo 2022 with the homies and was just, you know, having like a good time just watching fighting game tournaments. And you know, that was like the game that a lot of my like friends were like playing. Like, yo, you playing Guilty Gear Strive? I'm like, yo, my friends are like playing like fighting games like for real this time. I'm like, yo, damn, this is awesome. Like, it feels good to, you know, be like a fighting game like fan and just like spread like that outreach, right? Of course, right? You know, my friends are more in they love like fighting games, but you know, like only like narrowed down to like a relative like few, right? Not like, you know, like some, like I know like some like my boy E-Skater that we always like play like Marvel 3 and like Marvel 3 and KOF, and James as well, Crack Rock Steady. We would go at it with Tekken and Samurai Showdown and other like fighting games that are like offshoots. Like, we would play a lot of hours into Gigabash and other like not fighting games like fighting games. So it was like, you know, my friends have been around like the scene of like fighting games, but for most of like the others, they just like relegate to like a few, which is like the ones that they know and like love to like play, right? And you know, at the time, Guilty Gear was especially like one of them, you know? So Guilty Gear, like, this is like what, 2021, so now it's like 2024, 3 years later. It would have been close to like, you know, Avengers like time length, like 5 years later, something like that, you know? But yeah, 3 years later, right? The game has definitely like, you know, changed and evolved, right? But I don't and the Khaiza was like super like amped up for like Guilty Gear like back in the day in the beginning, right? I was like pumping out like online videos, I was trying out like characters, I was doing like the god awful like story mode, right? The first like story mode, until like I decided at the end, I was like, okay, let me stop. Right, because like the story mode in like Guilty Gear is kind of like ass. It's just nothing but a non-interactive like cutscene for like 30 hours. I'm like, no, thank you. No, thank you. I know this. I know, like some like Guilty Gear diehards are like, yo man, what the fuck, man? Why are you dissing on Guilty Gear story? I mean, like, it kind of like is. It's really much like, you know, like the most contrived like fighting game like story mode there is. You know, none of like the Guilty Gear like story like really like doesn't make a lot of like sense. You know, why is there a Batman, or why is his name like Soul Bad Guy or something like that? You know, it's just like these characters are like cool, but like I hardly ever give like a solid like fuck about like the story mode of Guilty Gear because it's batshit insane. The only reason I got into like Guilty Gear was because, you know, the characters look cool and I wanted to play like a new like fighting game. And I started with like Exart, you know, more than enough, right? The only problem with like Exart in comparison to like Strive is that Exart is like so mechanically dense, right? Like there's like mechanics on top of other mechanics on top of other mechanics for like Strive that it may feel like nauseating. They got like the best like tutorial mode out there for Exar because it relatively just plays like a fucking like mini game with Jacko. You don't get to pound Jacko, but you get to play with Jacko and her minions, so to speak. But yeah, Guilty Gear Strive is like a game that I had to like sit down and like reevaluate and think, you know, like it's been like, again, 3 years, and now the Khaiza is slowly like shifting away from Strive, right? Albeit as much like time and effort I like put into Guilty Gear Strive to get it to like, you know, rank 10 or like tower 10 with you know, my boy Leo, and just like struggling to, you know, make ends meet, right? I sort of like fell off in like Guilty Gear for like a varying a lot of like reasons, right? Chief being a one then was like, you know, my personal like episode, like my first like streamer like attack, right? Like it's sort of like regulator boils down to, you know, like, you know, I see a lot of my friends like streaming, or, you know, one person that I really know and love, like he streams like a holy metric ton. He streams, but just has like enough charisma and personality that he's a lot more like popular, and I just like became like very spiteful. Like everybody doesn't know this about the Khaiza, but I'm a very like spiteful, and a bad like habit of mine is a very negative attitude bitch, you know? Like I don't like seeing like my friends like getting a lot of like popularity out in like streaming outside other except their own like social circle, which is like, you know, a bad thing to say because I want like my homies to, you know, grow and be more popular, but like it's kind of like a similar thing like deep down inside of me is like it's the same thing with like family members. Like I see like my cousin getting all his like accolades, and like, you know, he's like a doctor now, everybody recognizes and, you know, technically like idolizes him, but it's sort of like I just feel like jealous. And that was like at a time when like my jealousy, my spitefulness was like at its peak, and I was like, I don't want to deal with this anymore, right? I don't want to deal with like all this like negative attitude like bullshit anymore. Like I still like technically like do, because it's like a bad habit, it's like ingrained into like my system, but I just can't like seem to like get over it. I'm handling it like better, quote unquote, but who knows, right? Another like attack may come about, or just like another like spiteful like rage moment may like come about, and I'm just trying to like keep it together, you know, amidst all of like this like Twitch like bullshit. Because Twitch in a nutshell, right, it's more so like if you can get connected, you are definitely well off. Twitch doesn't pay a lot of streamers off for like enthusiasm or effort. right? Which is like kind of like my philosophies of like Twitch is like I want to go ham. I want to go like, you know, pour in like, you know, make strides for myself. You know, nothing does. Exactly. Nothing does. In this like system, exactly. It's very true. But I still keep on doing Twitch because it's like a fun hobby that I like to do. I imagine myself as a viewer that's like, oh, what's so unique about like the Khaiza, so to speak, and what does he bring into like the table? And I just like focus on that like for my like self, by myself, in a way that like, oh, this is just like a hobby. I'm not gonna take it as like a job, because I know a lot of like, I know a few like content creators can really be well off with like, you know, they get like the big moolah from Twitch by just, you know, technically working hard, and they're just like well off. Like my favorite streamer, Maximilian_dude, favorite fighting game content streamer slash YouTuber around like the world, right? But I can never be like Maximilian_dude. I know that. So I just want to like be like spread like fighting game like love, and in like my own way. And now I feel like I don't feel that much like spiteful. Rather, I just want to like make things that work best as like imagining myself as a viewer and delivering that content, you know? But yeah, that was like at a time when I was like playing Guilty Gear, and I was just like I'm done with streaming. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore because Twitch is so like fucked up, and it like supports like, you know, dudes that really don't put in like the effort for like what they're worth, and like they just get rewarded for that. And I'm sitting over here like grinding, like I don't know how many videos I've made like at this point. I don't know how many streams I've had at this point, but it just feels like it's just like tumbleweed that like, and of course it's like it's my fault, right? I accept that. Nothing, I don't know how to like branch out, but still though, right? It's like, it sucks being like a Twitch streamer because only like a relatively few can really be well off as a Twitch streamer. But I still like do it anyway. It's like a fun little like hobby until I get like a real job, right, in the real world that actually gives me satisfaction and fulfillment. And of course, like it can be subjective, right? Like my fulfillment and satisfaction would be like talking about like video games or like fighting games, right? With like a channel dedicated to people that, you know, actually like listen, sort of thing. So that's like the big reason that my falling out for like Guilty Gear was like the personal issues. I was, you know, against like Twitch. I was very like negative and spiteful, and it just like sort of fell off on me. Now the second thing is more so on Guilty Gear, right? Guilty Gear systems. Over the course, again, I think I said this like 5 times. Over the course of like 3 years, like Guilty Gear is like, you know, I'm not denying that Guilty Gear is like a fun like game, but I've sort of like noticed this like trend anytime a new character would like drop, and I'm all invested for it. I'm like in like this like honeymoon phase of like trying out like a different like character. Like I tried out Sin, I tried out Elfed, I tried out Johnny, I'm gonna be trying out Abba, tried out like Bikin, and so many like characters. I didn't touch any of the characters in like season 2 outside of Sin, but oh yeah, I did try out the Testament and Gold Lewis. Yeah, that's what I did. That's right. But it's like when I like play like Guilty Gear, I'm expecting a lot of like crazy nutty shit, right? Not just in terms of neutral, but like in terms of like the swag sauce. Like what type of like combos can I like do, right? Because of course, right, the Khaiza's like a combo man. I talked about this like before on like Saturday. Like I love like combos. I love big like swaggy, like stylish as fuck, like routes for like a character and just make it like work. The more I like play like a session of like a Guilty Gear character, it sort of feels like, oh, I got like an epiphany of like trying out like this route, but it sort of seems to like fall apart the more I start to like notice like the flaws, right? Like I can't do like some crazy nutty shit with like this like combo counter hit state situation, and I can only do just like the basic like bread and butter stuff, you know? And there are like cool, interesting combos that are like out there, right? With like Baiken's like tether system. There's also like full screen like RC like cancels, which we'll get into like another discussion about that. But and of course I would like look up combos online to sort of get like an understanding of like what this character can do, but like I try to go for like combos that are really like unique without like RC, without anything, because another reason of Guilty Gear, like in like more specifically like the labbing and like the like like just for like characters, RC, roaming cancel. I'm pretty sure that was like the same in Exard, but RCs technically like just like scale you out because of like how like the game is. I think it was like the same in like Exard, but in Strive it feels like, man, after like an RC, yeah, you can keep the combo going, and if you're like in a wall, you can set up like wall break and bye-bye bitch, time for the next mix. Sort of feels like RC's been damage been like scaled down after using like RC. There is a trick that you can do like to negate the scaling of damage scaling of roaming cancels, and that's fast roaming cancels, where you can technically like cancel like the cancel the first few frames of a roaming cancel with like an attack. So you can technically just like pump out like, but RCs like scale you down unless you do like fast RCs. And overall, I think it's like an overall like major gameplay like mechanic that's totally like in Strive. They really majorly like made like Guilty Gear Strive not as crazy as past Guilty Gear games, rather just focus on neutral, right? Which is like, okay, yeah, that's cool, right? Because the whole design philosophy of Guilty Gear Strive, like before it actually like came out, is that we want to cater to newcomers to Guilty Gear Strive, not old timers, right? I mean, it will cater to like old timers, but more in a sense newcomers, because like I said, Exard was a dramatically like different game with a lot of like different mechanics and different like strings and all that jazz. So it's very daunting to a newcomer for Strive, and so when Strive came out and it made everything like, you know, benched down, right? You can't do like Gatling combos anymore, or like chain combos that you can do in Guilty Gear Exard. Now in Strive, each button has like a relegated purpose, so to speak. It's definitely like some like, not as a Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, but like, yeah, like they try to approach it like, you know, this is like a dummy's guide for fighting games, so to speak, with Guilty Gear Strive. And it definitely like paid off, right? We now have a lot more fighting game players in a lot of like different like communities outside of the relegated few like Street Fighter, anything like Capcom oriented, right? Now we have like Guilty Gear players, right? more Guilty Gear players coming out of like the woodwork, right? Like, bro, like IFC Yipes or Punk the God, who are primarily like Street Fighter / Marvel vs. Capcom players. When Guilty Gear Strive came out, they were playing Guilty Gear Strive because it was the game to come out that a lot of people liked for its fresh like online, and the characters look so like freaking dope, you know? So it definitely brought in a lot more people to Guilty Gear than it ever had before, and before it was just like a niche like few, you know? Which of course, like again, like fighting games is also like relatively like a niche genre in and of itself, right? You know, you're not gonna beat like the numbers of like how many like League players there are out there, or how many Valorant players are there, you know? Not gonna beat those numbers because, again, like fighting games are like very intimidating to like a casual, but Guilty Gear does it, you know? What else? Oh yeah, so like the buttons were like relegated, like, you know, punch, kick, slash, heavy slash, dust. There is like a dash button, so it stays true to like the aggressiveness of like what anime fighters are like known for. Is like they're very like aggressive, you know. Go back to like the ye old first like anime fighter, which is Darkstalkers. I mean, technically it's Capcom, but it plays in a way that's not like Street Fighter, and it has a lot of like, you know, nuances that a lot of like anime fighters like carry over to this day. Unique roster, no character feels like the same. Every character is different from one another. Chain combos, aggressive like ass like nature. Guilty Gear Strive is like that, even though like it's very like neutered, right? And the neutering is like punches are like pokes, kicks are like, you know, they're semi-fast moves, slashes are like, you know, you have close proximity slashes, and you have regular far slashes, then you have heavy slashes, and dust. Like down dust is like sweep, forward throw with dust is like your throw. It's no longer the fast like forward heavy slash like it was in older games. And a lot of characters got like reworked, right? So they're not as dangerous as they were like before, right? So all in all, like Guilty Gear Strive just tries to neuter down some of the overwhelming elements that were prevalent in older like Guilty Gear games, right? And it definitely like paid off. But for me, it doesn't like really sit well, you know? And of course, like it's like, but like Khaiza, don't you want to see like Exard like Elfet? I mean, I remember Exard Elfet to this day, right? It's still like PTSD. Elfet is like a fresh pace because of how she like works now in Exard, but oh my god, there were so many like top 8s like Hotashi and like so many other players that were using like Elfet and were just like dominating, right? The XR characters were just like including like Elfet were just like dank and gross because they had like tools that could really like cripple an opponent like down, you know? Everybody still remembers like fast startup like Raven Ball for Raven, or the OGest of OGest, right? Which is Johnny having like the unblockable and like leveling up his like sword slashes to become extremely OP like over the course of like the match. Which is like, you know, of course, that's good. I'm not saying that's bad, right? Because Strive manages to still keep characters, right? They still have like not all of the tools that they got from previous games, but still it's like it's a little like reminiscent. They can still like overpower you, right? Guilty Gear like is a game that, you know, if you have momentum, you can definitely like steamroll people, like if they're like too defensive or if they're too like cowardly, right? And of course it goes like back and forth. if you lose like a step, or if you drop a combo, or drop like, you know, a mix, then the other opponent will steamroll you and rob you of your win, right? So it goes like back and forth, like whoever like dominates with their momentum, you know, takes the crown. With Strive, like I would like lab like a character, and this is like ultimately it. I would like lab like a character, and it just feels like, you know, does it work? Kind of, but not really. Right? That's how like I feel with like, and like some of these like characters that like I try out, and of course I'm gonna be rinse and repeat like tomorrow because Abba will be coming out tomorrow. But yeah, the more like I play like labbing, and it has like this like honeymoon phase. Like I lab like a character, and it just feels like, okay, I've exhausted as many like things I can like do, from counter hit situations, from like, you know, anti-airs, in this like situation, like what can I do? And it just feels like, okay, that's the max limit of what I can do. The game is like telling me to stop and play like Guilty Gear, like a Street Fighter or a Mortal Kombat 11. You know, game was like designed to, you know, as based on like the starter guides, these are like tools, right? They're there to tell you what the moves properties actually are, what their motions are, and what are they good for in these like certain situations. They're not there for like, you know, max like combo. They're just there because those are the moves, and they're really good. They're really good when, you know, paired in this like, you know, event, right? Like DPs, like Soul Bad Guys, like Volcanic Upper. It's good on Wake Up. It's a good like throw out move, right? It just damages a lot. Can you use it like in a combo? In a way with like RC, but unless you like fast RC it, and you could do like a lot of crazy shit. But for the most part, no. I mean, of course, like Shoryuken is like a bad example because there's not really you can combo like a Shoryuken unless like you do like a super or something like that, right? But yeah, just like it feels like I try like so hard, and in the end it didn't even matter, like the Linkin Park song. And the more like I start to like play or like lab like characters in Strive, the more I have a much more like fondness for past Guilty Gears, like Guilty Gear Exar. Even though like, you know, the Exar diehards or the plus R diehards will say like, oh, yeah, it's like it's a very like rough game for the most part, but at least you can do like a lot more in those games than you can do with Strive. They're slowly like adding like updates, like quality of life updates, like adding a little bit more chains in their strings, but not like a total a flood of what the Gatling combos used to be. Oh, right. Another like personal thing would be like my PC. Yeah, once I got like a new like PC, I'm like, yay, I can play like video games at like a higher level now on like a PC. And then all of a sudden, graphics card crash. Every time I would play like Street Fighter or something like that, or like Tekken, it would just like crash. Well, not much on Tekken, but more so on like Street Fighter. But every time I would like play like Guilty Gear or Street Fighter, it would just like crash. And I don't know what to do. And then I found like the solution. Like, I think it was like switching the PCI cables, and I was like, I've been playing a lot more Monster Hunter, and I've not had any graphics card crashes as of yet. There's still like a chance, and I'm like a stuck with a lot. I hope there's nothing like that. So PC problems was definitely like a key contributing factor. As far as like game again, like, yeah, like I would talk about that. Yeah, the robbery, or like the, yeah, two things, robbery and inputs. Yeah, right. Guilty Gear came out on like PS5, but even then, like even if you play on like PC, sometimes inputs wouldn't like register a lot of like the time. Even though it had like rollback, but like it still feels like I'm struggling like to get out like a DP or like doing like a move, and I'm like trying like not to, you know? Until they like I fixed that, which it had like inherent like, no, not like the Street Fighter 5 8 frames of inherent like input lag, but I know they like reduced that to a relative like little like small number, but still it was like, it's rough to like play Exard. Other than that, there was also like other quality stuff like lobbies. Like the lobbies are good, don't get it twisted, right? Like Guilty Gear is innovative for the fact that like if you start registering for online play, you are set in that ranked tower with a lot of other people in a similar like skill level to you. And that's great, right? This is like the idea that I want to have for other like fighting games like moving forward. Have like skill-based like ranked matches, right? Because a lot of like fighting games now, and even like back then, have like missed like matchmaking parameters of getting an opponent to you, right, with a similar skill level. And most of the time it would just be someone that's like higher above you or someone that's like lower than you. Both are like bad, because like if you win against somebody that's like a noob, you're not really like learning like the game. It's just you're throwing out buttons and the other person is trying to like learn. The other side of the spectrum is that you're matched up with a very skilled opponent that knows what they're doing, and all you can do is just play like patty cake. You're not even playing like the fight stick. You know, and it feels like miserable. Like, what am I like doing wrong? And the other opponent is just like not letting loose, or just like trolls the shit out of you. I always argue that for a person to like get like good in a fighting game is have like a person that's like relatively skillful as you, like around like this range, and both you and the opponent can learn from each other and learn like characters and stuff. And that's what like Guilty Gear like ranked ladders are really like peak of like perfection, in my opinion, right? Once you enter like ranked match mode, and the game like registers your skill level, you are now in this tower with identically similar people with the same rank as you in that tower, right? That's so like genius. That's so genius, right? Because I get to learn Guilty Gear as well as ranking up and feel good about it. That's so like sublime to me, you know? But at the other end is like Guilty Gear is like an anime fighter, so there are a lot of like robberies that you can do. And like I said about like momentum, if you lose momentum, you are, you know, dunzo. You are like gone. Like there's no way you're gonna be like recovering from that. I got hit by like Mei fucking Totsugeki Dolphin. I feel so fucking miserable I got hit by that. How did I lose like a Mei like Dolphin, bro? What the fuck? You know? Yeah, but these are like a few but these are like a lot of like the reasons why I fell off of like Guilty Gear, right? And yeah, I'm not like dissing that like Guilty Gear is like a bad like game now, right? I mean, of course, right? There are like some good like gems and like in the rough for Guilty Gear, right? We got like a roster from like across like the board of like Guilty Gear, you know? We got fantastic redesigns of characters. I mean, you know, to an extent, right? I mean, the characters with the most like redesigns like Testament, Abba, Bridget, Soul, Kai, Chip. Not much changes there for like Biken except for like, you know, 2 like breast cup measurements. Like she's relatively like the same. Except for like bigger tit sizes. Potemkin. Almost everybody got like a redesign. So everybody looks so fresh. And of course like new characters that look very like awesome. Giovanna, Gold Lewis, Nago Ryuki, the black like samurai, right? Shit, like characters look fucking sick in like Guilty Gear, right? And all of like the different like accessibility like features that you can do with Guilty Gear. But for me, it's like the more like I play it, again, the more like I play it, the more I feel like I want to go back to like Exard, you know? And of course, now that we have like other like fighting games, like I feel like I want to play more Street Fighter, I want to play more Tekken, because to me like those games like they feel like so like fresh, like and so like innovative that I have a lot more fun like learning Street Fighter and learning Tekken. And of course, you know, there's KOF, right? KOF, I mean, it's good, but like it doesn't reach the peaks of like Street Fighter or Tekken or even like Mortal Kombat. And also like Mortal Kombat is also like, you know, a discussion point as well, because their new one is like good, but it's also like ass as well. I find much more enjoyment playing Street Fighter, Tekken, Mortal Kombat, KOF, because they offer a lot more than what you can do with Guilty Gear, in my honest opinion. Right, I have a lot more fun like just like labbing and learning like the different like strings because of like the mechanics that they offer you, right? Street Fighter, for example, I would not have liked Aki. A pinnacle like example, right? Aki's the weirdest like slithery bitch, and she comes from like Fang's like groins. But the time I played with her and her like trials, I'm like, yo, damn, she's kind of nice, right? And of course, like every character's got like drive rush like mechanic, so you can like make like combos. It's not just there for like neutral or like aggression, but no, it's like it sparks like your mind. It's like, oh, I have drive rush. What if I do this in this situation? You know, like, oh shit, drive rush or like drive impact opens up a lot of doors for you as a Street Fighter player. Tekken with like heat dashes and heat like engagers, you know? Like it extends like so much. I mean, Tekken is already like, you know, back from like Tekken 7 or like even like Tekken 6. Tekken, outside of like fundies and like frame data, Tekken has been, if you get good in Tekken, you can do like some nasty shit with like combos. And Tekken 8 just like excelled that even further, right? Almost like dangerous even, right? To like, holy shit, these characters got like too much power. But damn, that power feels good, you know? So I find a lot more enjoyment with other fighting games than I do with like Exard. So yeah, it's like a it's like a culmination of like a lot of like things. Am I gonna stop like playing Guilty Gear? No, right? Because of course, right? If a character like interests me to like try him out or her out, I will definitely like take time to play like Guilty Gear, right? Because Guilty Gear is still like fun. I still have fun playing like Leo Whitefang, even though like he's nerfed, but he's still like fun. Baiken is still fun. Golus is still fun. Geo from a little bit I remember she's still fun. Characters still feel fun in Exart. I'm not like dissing or spiting Guilty Gear for that, right? Because it's a fantastic fucking game. But I wish there could have been a lot more to, you know, tickle my balls a little bit, right? I want there to be like, you know, more like mechanics and more options, like have like another like meter, right? Have like another bar of meter, right? Make it like 3 bars so you can do more RC shits. Wild Assault is like a nice like little feature, so keep that in mind, but like retool like characters to make them even better. Like make like characters kind of like goated with like some like Exert sauce, you know? Like that's like what I kind of like want, is like more like flavors, right? And the more like I play Guilty Gear Strive, the more I'm like I reminded is like, oh, I can't like do this or I can't like do that. Like I want like Guilty Gear to like change up and like be more aggressive, even though like technically Guilty Gear is like an aggressive fighting game in and of itself, even though like it's very like neutered. But I wish you could do like, again, like a lot more than just like throwing these out in like neutral game or like the most typical list of like situations. I want there that you can do like a lot of shit. But yeah, those are like the Khaiza's thoughts on like Guilty Gear. You know, I'll still play it. I'm still like down for it. I don't know about like online, but yeah, I still like Guilty Gear. I still like the characters and the roster. Not much as like the story, but like I love like the flavors that they give. I just wish that they would like spice it up like a little bit more.